In the food or in the mouth, the food digested of the carbohydrate in the mouth open contact with the salivary during mastications. Saliva contains carbohydrate splitting enzyme to digest alpha 1,4 in the enzyme. Alpha amylase or salivary amylase or biting, all this different name for the same enzyme, which is common name is alpha amylase or amylase. Action of alpha amylase. Location of alpha amylase in our mouth. It is digestion or splitting the alpha 1,4 and the optimum pH for this one. This type of enzyme is 6.7. You know that the glycosidase link between the one molecules of polysaccharide with the another molecules or neighbor molecules in carbohydrate. For carbohydrate, disaccharide, oligosaccharide, and polysaccharide. This digested enzyme by alpha amylase. The action will be stopped after in pH 3, which is in our stomach. Starch and glycogen, dextrin, all type of polysaccharide will convert in the presence of amylase and in the presence of the chloride ions will be convert glucose to convert polysaccharide to glucose, maltose and maltotriose, which is later to convert to monosaccharide, which is ready to be absorbed by mucosa. Short duration of the food in the mouth led to incomplete digestion of starch and glycogen in the mouth, because these molecules need long time to be break down. Digestion in the stomach, there is no enzyme to break glycosidic point, which alpha 1,4 in gastric juice. However, HCl, as I said before, present in the stomach. That's I said the chloride ion hydrolyze sucrose to fructose and galactose. You know from previous year that the sucrose consists of the fructose and glucose, which is hydrolysis in our stomach. Only this one of disaccharide to be splitting in our stomach. Digestion in duodenum is the first part in our small intestine. Food reach to the duodenum from the stomach, where it's meet the pancreatic juice. As you see in this, the pancreatic juice can affects on the content of carbohydrate to splitting them to or to reactivate it as pancreatic amylase, which is located also in our small intestine. In pancreatic amylase, there is optimum pH for the alpha amylase or ptylin is required for splitting or hydrolysis alpha 1,4 glycoside linkage or saturated between the polysaccharide and monosaccharide. Pancreatic amylase is isoenzyme. You know that isoenzyme. اكو احد يعرف بيكم شنو معنى الايزو انزيم او الايزو شنو معناها؟ الو الو
نسمع دكتور نسمع.
شنو الايزو انزيم؟ شنو طلاب ما تسمع؟ ايزو انزيم اكو احد يعرف شنو الايزو انزيم؟
الايزومر النظير مالت.
اي هاي ايزومر يعني صح. يعني شنو شلون يتكون الايزومر؟
دكتور هو يعني تغير يصير
يعني هسه اذا انا نعم اذا قلت مثلا اذا قلت الفا اميليز، شنو الايزو انزيم مال الفا اميليز؟
البيتا.
عافيه. هو هذا اللي اريد اقول لكم، هو the same structure but different in the orientation of the functional group، سواء كانت left and right or up and down، give different properties and eventually different functionality. So different only in the optimum of pH actions. Both enzymes require to chloride ion for their action. Ion activated enzyme سواء كان الألفا and or البيتا. Both of them required chloride ion or HCl. احنا من نقول HCl, if we say HCl, there is no HCl in the liquid or in the fluid, because it's freely or completely dissociation to H plus and Cl minus. Starch and glycogen converted by pancreatic amylase to maltose and isomaltose and eventually dextrin and oligosaccharide, and to convert finally to monosaccharide. Digestion in small intestine. Main digestion takes place in the small intestine by pancreatic amylase. Digestion is completely by pancreatic amylase because food stay or stable or take longer time in the intestine. What are the disaccharides? Disaccharides composed of two monosaccharides. They are present in the brush-border epithelial intestinal mucosal cell, where their recyclant monosaccharide or convert to monosaccharide and other arising from the diet are absorbed. يعني عملية الابسوربشن سواء كانت بولي أو مونوساكرايد، لكن هي عملية الدايجستشن أو الكونفرتنج أو السبليتنج اللي تحصل على لأن تعرفون جزيئة صغيرة، فالسبليتنج مالتها يكون ياخذ وقت قصير، وبالتالي be absorbed already to brush border epithelial of intestinal. And there is short or a little amount of monosaccharide be absorbed by stomach, but the large amount or the mean amount of the carbohydrate to be absorbed in the small intestine. They different type of disaccharide: maltose, sucrose, isomaltose, bifunctionally enzyme catalyzed hydrolyzed sucrose and isomaltose, and lactose. Actually there is three types: sucrose, lactose and maltose, and sometimes isomaltose. Isomaltose is the same maltose but different in the number of glucose joined with the galactose or with the another molecules. عندكم شنو الفرق بين السكروز والايزومالتوز؟ Sucrose consists of glucose and fructose, just two, while isomaltose consists of three glucose. Clinical significance of digestion. What happens if there is problem in digestion of the carbohydrates, especially disaccharide? Lactose intolerance, the main or the famous or common disease is lactose intolerance, is inability to digest or to splitting lactose due to deficiency of lactose enzyme. Causes اما يكون congenital related to the parents or to mother and father, or both of them, or to their family, or acquired during lifetime. And this one could be or can be divided to primary and secondary. If I say the primary, that is direct defect of the lactose intolerance. If you say secondary lactose intolerance, that means another causes which led to lactose intolerance. Congenital lactose intolerance, it's congenital disorder. There is incomplete absence or deficiency of lactose enzyme. The child actually is early detected because the infant become unstable and crying, and there is extension in the stomach on the small intestine, and it can be recognized easy. This child will develop intolerance lactose and emitted immediately after the birth. Its diagnosis is early infant and milk feed precipitate symptoms. انت حتى تشوفون يعني باثناء التقيؤ مع الهانطة يصير كلوتينج مع الميلك، سواء كان breast feeding or feeding by the milk. Primary lactose deficiency result from different, or there is a problem, but no congenital absence of lactose. When family history, no family history for lactose intolerance or lactose deficiency, but deficiency precipitated during adulthood for the parents and will transfer to the child. The genes for lactose is normally expressed update RNA level, but is not translate to the for enzyme. يعني هو موجود الانزيم مال سوري ال RNA sequence، لكن ال RNA for enzyme ما موجود، وبالتالي لاكتيز deficiency، وبالتالي كون لاكتيز or lactose intolerance. It is very common in Asian population. That's this country included for this. Many children have this problem in our country. There is intolerance to milk and dairy products, so milk or dairy products. Second, lactose deficiency. It may develop in a person with a healthy small intestine during disorder of acute illness. Occurs because the mucosal damage from the medication resulting، يعني أخذ أدوية، تعرفون most medication or most drug to be detoxification or to be digested by the liver, and some of them will be result inability to digest or to form gastrointestinal disease. GIT disease could be result or temporary lactose intolerance, particularly from the gastrointestines, which caused by rotavirus. Rotavirus is double strand from RNA, which make diarrhea, and the product or the side effect or the complication, is more accurate word, is complication of the rotavirus will lead to secondary lactose or lactase deficiency. In secondary lactase deficiency also result from injury of the small intestine, any injury in that occurs during from the celiac disease. Most of you know that celiac disease enables you to absorb of gluten, and this person or this patient has to take food with the free gluten. You know that is some flour is free gluten, and some biscuit and some different type of the cake is which is actually expensive. And this Cohen's disease and chemotherapy, also chemotherapy, will lead to secondary lactase deficiency. Actually, chemotherapy, you know, chemotherapy, that's treatment or radiation or treatment against the CA, and different type of CA led to secondary lactose deficiency. A clinical manifestation in the form of abdominal cramps, usually destination diarrhea and flatulated open ingestion of the milk dairy product. يعني التواء يسبب إسهال، يسبب انتفاخ بالابدومينال. هسه راح نعرف الابدومينال ليش يصير انتفاخ بالهذا. Undigested of the lactose in the intestinal human is acted open by bacteria. راح يسبب تجمع لللاكتوز in intestinal human, and there is type of the bacteria will digested of the or converted to small molecule to oxidation of the lactose to produce CO2 and H2O2 and two carbon molecules or two carbon products. This accumulation of the CO2 and H2O CO2 راح يسبب انتفاخ او extension بالستومك and الابدومينال cramps، وممكن يؤدي الى الاسهال او actually يؤدي الى الاسهال. High accumulation for lactose and the carbon products and H2O osmotically active, and this withdraw oxygen from the intestinal mucosal cell and cause osmotic diarrhea or consumption because the undigested bulk you see in this abdominal destinations. شقد هاي هذا البيشنت شقد متمدد الابدومينال، هذا سبب flatulated more CO2 accumulate in the large and small intestine. الدايجنوسيس أكيد هو من الدايجنوسيس عندنا CO2 وعندنا H2 وعندنا 2 كربون. احنا نقدر نكشف عن CO2، نقدر نكشف عن ال H2. ال H2 increase مع that mean the acidity increase. The person who drink lactose loaded سوى له loaded نريد نكشف هذا البيشنت. ننطيه lactose preferage and then breathe, analyze this regular breath and measure amount of hydrogen. اكو جهاز متخصص بالهذا breathing. هذا ممكن طبعا هذا فد علم خاص ممكن اكو فد تحاليل تعتمد على التنفس وعلى الشهيق والزفير، بس احنا قدر تعلق الامر بالdiagnosis of the lactose intolerance or lactase deficiency. Can be used this instrumental to detect if the person or if the child is with the lactose intolerance or no, through measuring hydrogen amount. There is normal range and there is abnormal. When you can compare between normal and abnormal level, depends on the person results. Normally, very little hydrogen is detectable in the birth, but undigested lactose, very low level of hydrogen to be digested in the birth, in the breath, or sorry, in the breath. But undigested lactose produces high level of hydrogen. This test takes about 2 to 3 hours. يعني مو رأسا انت انطيته درينك، وهاي لازم ياخذ وقت وانه يصير accumulation لاكتوز، وبالتالي البكتيريا تحطمه حتى تقدر تقيس اللاكتوز. استول اسيديتي، احنا بالاستول اسيديتي هاي البكتيريا حطمته، طلع عندنا CO2 وطلع عندنا H2 وعندنا كربون. نقدر نستخدم طبعا اكو different انواع different types of measurement. Also glucose may be present in the stool as a result from undigested lactose. تعرفون اللاكتوز متكون منين؟ اللاكتوز اكو احد يقول لي اللاكتوز منين متكون؟ نايمين.
جلوكوز وجلاكتوز.
جلوكوز وجلاكتوز. ممتاز. نوع الارتباط المهم، فبما انه موجود اللاكتوز موجود بالستول، اذا نقدر احنا من هذا رأسا هو يجوز متحطم او جزء منه متحطم، يتحطم من خلال الحامضية او اذر انزيم. فمن نقيسه اكو بالفيسيز او بالستول اكو جلوكوز، والجلوكوز نقدر نقيسه باي بنديك تيست as in the urine. إذا قسنا وطلع عندنا glucose or positive Benedict test, that means the patient or this child with the lactose intolerance or lactase deficiency, sucrose isomaltose deficiency. These two types of enzyme are synthesized on single peptide chains. So deficiency exists if there is accumulation of sucrose, this need to be actually at the end of this word. يعني sucrose, this enzyme sucrase, and isomaltose, isomaltase. If this deficiency of this enzyme, that means accumulation of them. And lactose intolerance, urine doesn't give. شنو فرقا بالهذا؟ The same as of lactose intolerance. قد تكون الأعراض متشابهة. The same lactose intolerance, urine does not give positive test for the Benedict test because sucrose non-reducing sugar. هذا مو من نفس هذا، ما نقدر. لكن ذاك اللاكتوز reducing sugar اكو functional group، حتى لو ما يتحول الى لاكتوز وجلاكتوز ممكن نقيسه using لاكتوز using Benedict test، لان Benedict test هو يشتغل على الفانكشنال جروب او reducing sugar او reducing يعني يشتغل على الالديهايدات حتى يختزلها او حتى يأكسدها to produce carboxylic acid, which is can change the color of the strip or change the color of the Benedict test. History confirmed that diagnosis. Most comfortably tested is mucosal biopsy. دائما يعتمدون على يشوفون هسه بايوبسي ياخذون، يعني يستخدمون laryngoscope to get biopsy to find out what if the patient is sucrose and isomaltose، مو مثل easy detected for the lactose intolerance. Absorption of the carbohydrates. In carbohydrates, it is passive diffusion and vasylated diffusion and active transport. In passive diffusion, that means transfer across the cell membrane by diffusion from large or high concentration to low concentration, and not needed to energy, no needed to energy. There is, and so if the molecules is lipid soluble, so it's easy to transfer across, as the in the phase diffusion in the left your slide. While if there is lipid insoluble, so need to transporter, special transporter to transport across the bilayer of the cell membrane. And there is different type of the transporter, and both of them, a passive transporter not needed for ATP, while in active transporter transfer against our ingredient or from high concentration to from low concentration to high concentration through the cell membrane and required energy. So it said active transport. So passive diffusion, passive transport may be needed carrier or vacillated, may be needed vacillated or carrier, or not needed vacillated. But active transporter just needed transporter, no passive, no or needed to be used transporter. In passive diffusion, sometimes need and sometimes feature or passive diffusion, and as I said for sometime required in concentration gradient in the passive diffusion down from high to low concentration, vacillate diffusion from high to low concentration, but in passive diffusion energy expenditure or needed, not needed energy. Carrier protein not needed in passive diffusion. speed slow. لا ليش؟ لأنه هو راح ماكو ترانسبورتر، ماكو helper خلينا نقول to facilitate or to increase the speed of the molecules. While in vacillated diffusion also from high concentration to low concentration, energy expend not need to energy and required for protein transporter, and for that reason to be faster than passive diffusion, even the same branch. While in active transporter move molecules from low to high and the need to energy expenditure in the form of ATP and required carrier, which is a protein, and there is different type of the carrier, depends on the type of the cell membrane, also type of the molecule required to be transported across cell membrane. Glucose transporter, or there is different type of glucose transporter I'll give you later or in the next lectures. All of the lecture, and sometimes some cells don't need to glucose transporter, some require. Glucose transporter is a flip of glucose inside from outside to inside to the cytoplasm, and this transporter needed sodium dependent transporter and calcium dependent on calcium, because even you have cell membrane, even you have transporter in the cell in the cell membrane, but there is undependent on sodium, but there is activation or inactivation of this transporter to flip or to transfer cell or to transfer the glucose molecule from the bloodstream to cytoplasm across the cell membrane, which depends on the requirement or depend on the saturation of the cell or saturation of blood. Absorption of monosaccharides. The major monosaccharides resulting from carbohydrate digestion, D-glucose, D-galactose, and D-fructose. Absorption is carrier mediated. يحتاج إلى carrier. Pentose are reabsorbed simple diffusion. فقط البنتوز simple diffusion. ليش هاي تحتاج؟ هاي تحتاج أولا لأن جزيئتها أكبر من البنتوز، هذيك خماسية هاي سداسية. ثانيا الجلوكوز هو insoluble lipid والسيل ممبرين فوسفوليبيد يتكون بايلاير فوسفوليبيد. monosaccharides are the fast transporter لأن هي جزيئة خفيفة أول شيء from human to small intestine and then to capillary to transfer to different location in the body. Absorption of glucose from the small intestine human by carrier mediated mechanism involving transport of protein, sodium dependent transport and sodium independent transport. احيانا يعتمد على الصوديوم، احيانا ما يعتمد على الصوديوم. شلون يعتمد وشلون ما يعتمد؟ يعتمد على طبيعة السيل ممبرين or location of the cell أو طبيعة السيل which activated the transporter بصورة عامة activated and deactivated by in the process of the food or in the process of the carbohydrate. And to be more accurate, absorption of glucose, there is in the small intestine, there is special glucose. Glut meaning glucose transporter. There is different type of glucose transporter. From 1 to is about 14 glucose transporter, and the most important is about 5 transporter. Invasillate transporter of glucose, especially in the intestinal epithelial cell or cell membrane, has GLUT5, which facilitate transport of glucose in the intestine from the bloodstream to the cytoplasm. But in cell membrane of the liver we have GLUT2. In secondary active transport is including there is activation of transport, vacillate transport, move or transfer of glucose or flip glucose from high concentration to low concentration at not needed energy. Entering of glucose inside of the cytoplasm will be activated glycolysis, and the glycolysis produce energy. Energy will vacillate, as we see vacillate, increase energy inside of cytoplasm, and this cytoplasm will stop movement of the calcium and the accumulation of the calcium, accumulation of the potassium in the side of the cell member, and accumulation of positive positive charge inside of the cell will be polarize the cell membrane, and this polarization of the cell membrane will be blocked of the sodium potassium channel, and the closing of the sodium potassium channel will be vacillate entering of the calcium inside of the cell, and vacillating or movement of the calcium inside will be led to secretion or stimulation of insulin to be stopped or to increase absorption of the glucose from the bloodstream. Absorption of the fructose. Actually, fructose also converted, sometimes fructose in general, converted the glucose and galactose can be converted to lactose the glucose by isomerase. But in generally, there is a special transporter can be entering of a GLUT5 entering of fructose inside from, but in our slide is the bloodstream inside of this parallel line, which is cytoplasm, and the GLUT5 also flip fructose inside of the flip of fructose inside will be converted to glucose and later converted to glucose and follow the instruction or follow the degradation or glycolysis or metabolism of glucose to produce energy, and producing energy will stimulation eventually producing of insulin. Factor affecting the rate of absorption. Absorption is faster through the intact mucosa. حين ما يوصل للميوكوسال راح يصير faster, but dilation absorption is decreased in the some inflammation of injury. طبعا احنا حتى يكون كلامنا متواصل اللي اكل fiber and different type of the cellulose, molecule of cellulose, or will be delay absorption of or metabolism of carbohydrate in the same way be used for weight reduction. You have to use low absorption, or you have to decrease ingestion or decrease food with the high level of carbohydrates. So the absorption is decreased, but sometimes decrease in absorption, also inflammation and injury of actually in the stomach through small intestine. Thyroid hormone also the rate decreasing or affecting the rate of absorption of glucose. Mineralocorticoid also aldosterone the rate of absorption. Vitamin B6, B12, benzodiazepine acid, folic acid are required for absorption. Increase absorption of all of them will increase the absorption of the carbohydrate with the advancing age. Therefore, with the elderly people, this activity will be decrease dramatically with the elderly age. Clinical significance: deficiency in serum GLUT1 is left an absorption and excretion feces. راح يطلع ان الجلاكتوز is also male absorption. إذا ماكو الجلوكوز ترانسبورتر راح يطلع أصلا راح يطلع an absorption of lactose or galactose أحيانا يؤدي إلى male absorption for glucose and galactose. Deficiency in SL glucose transporter 2 filtration glucose is not reabsorption back, is lost of in urine and causes glucose. أيضا حديث جماعة type 2 or due to will lead to accumulation of glucose in the urine. And thank you. Any question, please?